Do you ever feel like there's just not enough? Not enough time, not enough sleep, not enough money? If you've ever had these thoughts, you are not alone. Scarcity is the hum that runs through our brains and bodies and is the background of a lot of our lives. And sometimes it's more serious than that. There are no more treatment options. I have nothing left to give to this marriage. When I finally need help, there is no one I can turn to. Scarcity says this is the end of the story. But the gospel says maybe not. I want us to look at John chapter 6, the story of the feeding of the 5,000. Feel free to open your Bible and follow along with me. After this, Jesus went across the Galilee Sea. A large crowd followed him because they had seen the miraculous signs he had done among the sick. Jesus went up a mountain and sat there with his disciples. It was nearly time for Passover, the Jewish festival. Jesus looked up and saw a large crowd coming toward him. He asked Philip, "Where will we buy the food to feed these people?" Jesus said this to test him, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "More than a half a year's salary's worth of food would not be enough for each person to have even a little bit." One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said, "A youth here has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that for a crowd like this?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass there. They sat down, about 5,000 of them. Then Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he distributed it to those who were sitting there. He did the same thing with the fish, each getting as much as they wanted. And when they had plenty to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the leftover pieces so that nothing will be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves that had been left over by those who had eaten. Some people read this story very literally, that Jesus made a miracle and something came out of nothing. Others might read this story as generosity and sharing. One young person's sharing inspired others, so much so that even at the end, everyone was full and there was an abundance. Some might read this as symbolic, Jesus talking about himself as the bread of life, a bit of foreshadowing to the cross. Others might look at this as a political statement. The Roman Empire did not feed the poor. This radical act of Jesus feeding the hungry is a challenging of the empire. It's who controls the resources. Or maybe it's faith formation, just good old teaching. Jesus is using this moment to teach the disciples something. When they see not possible, Jesus makes a way. Maybe it's simple education. Whatever interpretation speaks to you, they all circle back to the same truth, that God's world runs on abundance, not scarcity. We live in a culture that tells us we will never have enough. Not enough worth, not enough success, not enough energy. But in God's economy, there is enough. There's enough grace, there's enough love, there's enough peace, there is enough presence. So abundance doesn't magically fix everything. What abundance does is remind us this truth, that when we run out of resources, God is still there with enough. God shows up. And seeing that truth allows us to imagine what might be possible with something small. One meal, one act of love, one yes. And that ripple effect can go more than we can even imagine. So the real miracle in John 6 may not have been the bread at all. I think it might have been trust. When we stopped worrying and complaining that the little boy only had so much food, how would we feed all of these people, and we just started to share it, that's when the miracle happens. So maybe the question for us is not what we need more of, but what do we already have that God might be able to multiply? This Bible study is called Flipping the Script. It is short, thoughtful Bible studies that connect faith with real life. You can watch it anywhere, anytime, and I'd love to hear from you. So if you could drop in the comments someplace you've seen recently in your life abundance. Where have you seen God's abundance in life lately? We hope you'll join us for the next one, and it was great having you here today.